Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Dani, and today I'm going to tell you about all the books and all the stats about what I read in the first quarter of the year. In the first 3 months of the year, January, February, March, I read technically 12 books, but with a bonus one that I'm going to explain. So I organized them here by month, and the books behind it are turned so you don't get distracted by them. And I put a few here that are replacing the ones that I don't have with me to show you, but they're roughly the same size. So in January I read House Moving Castle by Diane Ryan Jones, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, Fables by Bill William. I forgot his last name. I'll put it on the screen. And I read it from the library, so I put here another graphic novel to replace it. And I also read volume 1 of Way of Kings, which I'm not counting as a book read in my stats, because I'm counting it as a whole book. Volume 2 in this edition starts in page like 500 something, so it doesn't start from page 1 again, so I'm just going to count The Way of Kings read when I finish volume 2. But I did read volume 1, so I put here to just exemplify because this pile was looking very short. And then in February I read Fullmetal Alchemist volume 12, A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Novelle, Game Changer by Neil Schusterman, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, this one that I don't have here with me is Which is Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart, and The Clock of Stars by Francesca Gibbons. And in March, I'm not going to do a March wrap-up. If you didn't notice, I didn't post a March wrap-up, but I'm not going to do one because I'm going to briefly talk about these books here in this video. And it's just 3 books, so I didn't think it would be worth it to make a whole video just for these 3 books. But they are Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, and A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. And I have a full video that was the last one that I posted. I'm going to link in the cards with the review for Realm Breaker, so it wouldn't make sense for me to do a full wrap-up for just these 2 books. But Realm Breaker, you have a full review, and I really recommend you check it out if you're thinking about reading Realm Breaker, because my goal with that video was to kind of let people know what to expect when going into this book, because people might expect something different and not enjoy it, but for me it was a 5 stars. So let's talk about some stats. 8 of the books that I read were fantasy. Again, all the stats are not counting The Way of Kings Volume 1. But 8 of the books are fantasy, 3 were sci-fi, and 1 was historical fiction. So the historical fiction was A Thousand Splendid Suns, and the sci-fis were Game Changer, History of What Comes Next, and Frankenstein. 5 of them were adult, 5 were YA, and 2 were middle grade. The middle grade ones are House Moving Castle and The Clock of Stars. 8 of those books were written by women and 4 by men. 5 of the authors are from the United States, 4 from the UK, 1 from Canada, 1 from Japan, and 1 United States/Afghanistan, because Khaled Hosseini has both nationalities from what I understand. He was born in Afghanistan, but he is also an American citizen, so both things. And 2 of these I actually listened to the audiobook, which were Red Queen and A Natural History of Dragons. I really recommend both of the audiobooks, were really good. I think that's it for general stats, but let's talk a little bit about rating. I had only 3 5 stars, and they were kind of 4.5 stars, but they were Fables, Fullmetal Alchemist, and Realm Breaker. They all felt like 5 stars when I finished, especially Fullmetal Alchemist. I'm enjoying the series so much that every time I finish a book, I just immediately know it's 5 stars and just don't even think about it too much. But for Realm Breaker, I think it would be more of a 4.5, but definitely worth it rounding up to 5, because I do think it deserves that. And for Fables as well, it was a reread for me, and just rereading it, I think I really enjoyed it, and I don't know, it felt like 5 stars when I finished, more like 4.5, but 5 stars. So they would be my favorite books of the quarter, which feels weird because Fables was a reread. Fullmetal Alchemist is a 12 in the series that I'm loving, so it's easy. So Realm Breaker, I guess, would be the true favorite of this whole quarter for me. And it definitely makes sense. This is the book that I had the most fun reading it, while I was reading it, when I finished it. I really enjoyed the characters, I really loved the plot. I just had a lot of fun. I thought it was funny, it was entertaining, it was engaging, immersive, and I'm really excited to continue the series. So I definitely recommend you check the review like I said, that I posted, so that I go more in depth about world building, about magic and all that. But this is my favorite book of the quarter. It has a lot of potential to be in my favorite books of the year. Definitely my favorite of the Meteor Freak Out video. I forgot the name of the tag, but that might actually be the exact name of the tag. Either way, it will definitely be there as a favorite of the first quarter, of the first half of the year, but it has a very good potential to be one of the favorites of the year. And I still kind of want to reread it, maybe, at some point. But definitely before the second one comes out. Well, I don't know when that will be, maybe next year, I don't know. But then I'll probably reread this. But either way, I really, really loved it. And then I think the next favorite would be The Way of Kings, but as I'm not counting it on my stats, I can't talk too much about it. I don't know if the second half is going to be bad. I can't see that happening because I really love Brandon Sanderson's world building and writing and characters and everything that he creates. So I'm almost sure that the whole book is going to be a favorite as well. But so far, the first half was definitely one of the best books that I've read in the first half of the year, first quarter of the year. The biggest disappointments of the first quarter of the year, you probably know, it's Game Changer and A History of What Comes Next. I have a whole vlog about that as well. They were my most anticipated books of 2021 and they disappointed me pretty bad. Although A History of What Comes Next, I do want to reread it and I think I'm going to enjoy it more on the next read because I know more what it is about. So I think I have the right expectations for it now. Game Changer, it's still a disappointment. I don't know if that will change, but it's really sad. And the worst book that I read in the first quarter was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It was incredibly boring. It was a struggle to get through. It was like, I don't know, I really wanted to DNF it, but at the same time I really wanted to finish it just to know what it was all about, and it was not worth it. I do love these classics editions though, and I would love to get all of them, just have this whole collection. But this one was really, really bad. The other two books that I read in March besides Groundbreaker were actually some of my favorites also. Like, they weren't 5 stars, but they were better than everything else that I read, I think. Not better than The Way of Kings or Fables, but better than House Moving Castle or Red Queen, Clock of Stars, all that. So like I said, since I didn't do a wrap-up, I'm going to talk about them really fast. So Fellow Splendid Sons is a story about 2 women in Afghanistan during the war that lasted over 30 years. And we first follow Mariam, who had a very difficult childhood. Her parents were not together, and her mom was very resentful of her father. And her mother got pregnant with her when she was working for her father. And he already had multiple wives who didn't want her to be there, so he let her go, and he still is he's involved in Mariam's life, but not so much, and their relationship is all very not good. Eventually, when she gets married with this awful man who abuses her in every way possible. Definitely a lot of triggers in this book for every type of violence that you can think about. Let's just leave it at that. But if you need more specifics, I'm sure in Goodreads someone described them all. And the second perspective that we follow here that starts a little bit more in the middle of the book is Lila. She, on the other hand, she had a really good childhood. Her parents loved her, her father loved her, and he really wanted her to study and be successful in life. But of course, things doesn't go as planned, and she also has a very rough life after that. This is a very sad and tragic book, and it's one of the reasons I think that I couldn't give it 5 stars, because I feel like it was trying too hard to be tragic, and everything was really, really bad. And I know that all of those things really happen, and like he's not exaggerating. It's things that actually happen. But at the same time, I feel like it was just too fast that one tragic thing would happen after the other. And for the pacing of the book, I think it could have been better handled. I don't know. But it's very impactful for sure. It's not a story that I'm going to forget easily. And it's definitely one that I recommend if you're looking for a sad book, historical fiction. And I really do want to read his other book, The Kite Runner. as soon as I can, because this was really, really good. And then on a much lighthearted note, we have A History of Dragons by Mary Brennan. This is told in the memoir format, and it's told in the perspective of this woman called Lady Trent. Her name is Isabella? Yes. And she, again, we start in her childhood and how she was really interested in learning about animals and especially birds and really weird stuff. To just like dissect a pigeon just to see what it was like inside. That it was already dead, she didn't kill it. But either way, like she is not like typical other girls in her city, and she gets to a point that she's fascinated by dragons. She wants to study dragons, learn all about them, and we follow her in her teenage adult years. She gets married really soon, and we follow her with her husband going in adventures to figure out what's happening in this village because there are dragons attacking. It's a lot of fun. I had so much fun. The audiobook is really, really good because the way the woman narrates, because it's a memoir format, it feels like she's really telling her life story. So I really enjoyed it a lot. I really want to continue the series. I have no idea where it's going from here. It really closed a section of her life in a really nice way. But I'm curious to see where it's going. I would definitely recommend if you are looking for this type of fantasy. I don't know, it's a very unique written it's written in a very unique way because she's talking to people, like she's talking as if we already knew that she's a famous dragon naturalist. So it's really interesting. It's like we're learning from a very important famous person, but that's actually fictional. So I really enjoyed it. I would really recommend it. One other stat that I think is really cool that I'm just thinking about is how many series I started in the first quarter of the year. I read 12 books and 8 of them were the first book in a series. Well, 9 of them if we count The Way of Kings, Volume 1. So I have House Moving Castle, Fables, A History of What Comes Next, Red Queen, Witches Steeped in Gold, A Clock of Stars, A Natural History of Dragons, and Realm Breaker. They're all the first book in a series. And I think it would be cool to see how many series I actually intend to continue. So House Moving Castle, I don't think I'm going to continue with the series. It's not, I think this story wrapped up well enough on its own that I don't feel the need to continue. I'm not that curious to continue the series. It's not something that I would actually actively avoid, but I'm not going out of my way to find the next book in the series. Way of Kings, I'm definitely continue. I can't wait to read Volume 2, and I'll probably want to continue the whole series this year as well. Hopefully I can fit them in my TBR. Fables is one that I really, really want to continue, but I don't have any of the books, so I kind of forget about them. They're very easily found through my library, but I just forget about that because I'm not seeing them. But it is one that I would love to have it and to just read the whole thing. I think it's really entertaining, it's a lot of fun, and I definitely want to continue. A History of What Comes Next, I do want to continue, although I didn't love the first book. Like I said, I want to reread it, and I think I'll end up loving it more than I did the first time. And I do want to see where this is going. Again, it wrapped up really well in the first one, and because of the history aspect, I have no idea where this is going. But I do want to continue, and I trust that Sylvain Val will do something really cool. Red Queen is one that I really enjoyed the first book. I'm not sure that I'm not going out of my way to continue. I don't own any of the next books and any of the next books. The audiobook was really good, so I could continue in that format. But I don't know, it's not going to be a priority. I enjoyed the first one, but I'm not curious too much to know what's going to happen next. Witches Steeped in Gold was one that I feel like it let me down a little bit because it had so much potential and it didn't work for me. The magic system, the writing style, it didn't vibe with me. I really love the characters, I really like the world building, but with the way that the writing was and the magic, I was confused, and I don't know, it just wasn't engaged enough that I want to continue. I think it's a duology, so when the next one comes out, I'm going to check the reviews and see if I would want to read it, but for now, if it was just without no information about the next one, I probably wouldn't read it. A Clock of Stars was a very forgettable book for me. It was a lot of fun when I read it. I enjoyed it at the time, but I already don't remember how it ended, and I'm not continuing. I don't care too much about the series to continue. A Natural History of Dragons, I really want to continue, like I said. I'm very curious to know what's going to happen, And yeah, this is definitely on the list to continue. And Realmbreaker was a favorite, so I can't wait for the next book. All the others were standalones except for Fullmetal Alchemist, which is volume 12, and I am continuing with Fullmetal. I already pre-ordered the next that are coming out this year. And I think this is it for this quarter, for my stats, for my favorites of the first 3 months of 2021. I can't wait to do this more. I've never done this quarterly stats, but I've seen so many people do it and it's so much fun. I love to watch it. And it was really fun to talk about it as well, so I hope you really enjoyed this video. And remember to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for joining me. Bye!